So welcome to our summer 2017 business meeting. No one's ever seen me in this chair before. I'm Peggy Clements. I'm the new vice president. Jen Daly very graciously offered to chair the meeting for me since I'm a novice at this, but I decided to take the plunge. It's going to happen at some point, so I might as well do it now. All right.
Hi, Evan. So why don't you want to put that on?
Oh, you have one too. Okay, there. Sorry. Right. So you want to take the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice President Clements?
Oh, here. Sorry. I'm not used to my name coming up so quickly.
Trustee Daly?
Here.
Trustee Parr?
Here.
Trustee Schwartz?
Here.
And as I said a moment ago, I decided to chair this meeting at the last minute, even though I'm new to a leadership role in the district. And yeah, I'm actually really very excited to start. I guess it's really kind of the beginning of the new year and the new academic year and the end of the summer. I know I talked with Dr. Bowers earlier and know that everyone here is excited as well and that great things have happened this summer. So welcome. And so let's have the superintendent's report.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everybody. And hi, Diana. How are you? Welcome back.
Happy summer, everybody.
Yeah, happy summer. And welcome back to everybody in the home audience. We have only 2 people here in our audience. So we have a number of things to report on. We were actually very busy and very productive over the summer, and we'll talk about many of the things that happened. So the first on my superintendent's report is an update on the enrollment. And we were kind of looking through May and June at the numbers, because especially for the rising first and second grade, because we had 3 sections of first grade and 4 sections of second grade scheduled, and we wanted to make sure that our numbers were going to warrant that. And in both cases, we are just a little over what we think would be comfortable for one less class. In first grade, we now have 48. Or with one less class, yes, I said that right. In first grade, we have 48, so we will be looking at 3 sections of first grade, and in second, we have 71. So that will also warrant, and with that grade level, the 4 sections. So I'd also like to kind of update you on the enrollment for the district. When we ended last year, K-12, we had 833 students in the district. At this point, we now have 862. So we're up by almost 30 students over the summer, district-wide. And we have our grades, in some cases, are getting pretty large. We have our 7th grade is 80 this year, and our 11th grade is at 88. And we have a number in the 70s, but 80 is pretty high for Haldane. So we have 2 grades that are 80 or better. So.
What do you attribute the enrollment increase to? Is it like people moving into the area, or?
We have a lot of movement.
Just
yeah.
people
we have people
moving
coming
in.
Yep.
People going from private school to public school.
Yep.
Some people tuitioning in, just like a lot of different
it's a
moving
little
parts.
bit
There's
of
not
everything.
like one.
Mm-hmm. 5th grade seems to be one that we're getting a lot of kids in, and we had a lot coming in first and second. We are getting I think we're getting 3 new seniors and I think 5 new juniors, which is unusual. And so we're up by 30 at this point today. So.
It would be interesting, I think, to when we've talked about enrollment before, we've talked about it as kind of being in line with other areas, other districts, right? Like when we had a small kindergarten class, so did Garrison. Or when, they seem to kind of align. It would be interesting to know if that's continuing to be true, like, or are our numbers growing because it's of something specific to Haldane, you know what I mean? And I think that, you know, we've talked about like a demographic study,
Right.
And these questions could get answered, I think, within that,
Right.
but,
And
yeah,
we
it's
do have a
interesting.
proposal for a demographic study that will be coming to the board.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably warranted at this
Yeah.
point, as we see the numbers changing. So,
I had wondered when the kindergarten class was so small, like, did maybe that mean we were gonna be getting smaller? But that's, you can have those flukes, and it really seems like that's what that kindergarten
and
class
that's with
is.
the incoming kindergarten class of 32.
So kindergarten's continuing to be a small
Right.
class. The increases are
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I think as we saw last year, kindergarten, there are people that keep their kindergarten children in their daycare centers.
Right.
And it has extended hours, and it makes sense in kindergarten. And then when they come into first grade, when it's mandated, that's when they actually come into the district. And that's why our first grade is up now to 48. So just some interesting demographic information. Okay, so as you know, Anne finished closing out the books for the 16-17 school year, and we have an additional fund balance of about $490,000 as the year closed, and that's with a 4% unencumbered fund balance. We still have that 4%, and this is what is beyond. So after a lot of conversation and looking at what we presently have in our reserves, we made some recommendations that I will share with the public at this point with the funds that we presently have available. And two in particular are probably the things we would like to include or to increase the most at this point, based on a whole number of reasons. But one, we'd like to increase the capital reserves by $100,000, and we would like to increase the repair reserves by $250,000. And the reason for that, and the reason why we have an interest in doing that, is because, as the public knows, we've been talking about a bond referendum and a potential bond referendum that will probably be up for a vote next May. And so as we start looking at moving in that direction, if there are funds that we can channel into those areas, we think it would be an appropriate time to do that. And so $350,000 of the $490,000, the recommendation is to go $100,000 into capital and $250,000 into repair to increase those funds. The other funds, we were suggesting, as you remember, we recently opened an EBLAR account, which is the employee benefit reserve, and we're recommending $100,000 go into that reserve. We know that we are going to have some retirements in the next couple of years, so the EBLAR account would help with that process. And then the remaining, we're talking about paying down the capital, the additional funds from the cafeteria. And so that would be $40,000. So Anne, is there anything you'd like to share about our recommendations, or anything that I didn't say that you would like to include?
No, just to point out that the $100,000 going into the capital reserve is really going to keep that level, because we used $100,000 of it for the capital outlay project, which is the bleachers and the library renovation. So this 100 keeps it at the same level.
Those numbers of like where we are currently in these funds?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Because we did replenish these funds a year ago with our surplus, right?
Right. We funded. We created the EBLAR reserve last year, which we did not have previously, with $135,000. The recommendation is to add an additional $100,000 this year. I don't see the need really to go any higher than that in the future, because of the size of our district and the number of retirements we have. The capital reserve, was at $302,464 last year. We used 100, we'll put 100 back, it keeps it at the same level. The repair reserve is getting a nice boost from 422,840, add 250,000 to that, and if approved, that will be at 672,840. But as you know from the discussion that we've been having, that's still far away from what's needed for what we're recommending for the project. Yeah, and that's it.
Do you have an interest in those?
No, I was just wondering those accounts, because I know those were active.
Yeah.
You know, we were replenishing those last year, and I was just wondering where we were at with them.
And just so you know, I want to, the discussion will happen over budget season, but our capital reserve, that 100,000 brings us to the max that we can have in that. It was initiated 10 years ago as a 10-year reserve with a maximum of $1 million being funded into it. This brings us up to the $1 million. It's also the 10th year, so next time that the vote in May, to keep that capital reserve, it needs to be reinstated.
The actual fund.
The actual fund.
I
The
see.
capital reserve fund has an expiration date.
Oh, okay.
The repair reserve does not.
I see.
But we established it as facilities repair reserve, and it was over 10 years. We used a bulk of it for the field, which was 600,000.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've fully funded it, and it's in its final year. So the discussion we'll have to have, around budget time again, is to see what the parameters of it will be.
If we're going to repeat the same cycle. But I'd also like for the public to understand, even though $1 million went into the capital reserve, we're at 302,000, so 700,000 has already been expended on things within the district.
Can I ask you a question? What is a typical amount of excess per year? Like last year we had that big amount, so this year we have 450. What's normal? And I know it'll fluctuate from tuitioning. I'm sorry, thank you. I know it'll fluctuate from tuitioning in and for the amount of money we use on oil and snow plowing and all those things. But like, what's a typical comfortable amount for you?
For me, just from doing this for so many years, I'm happy that we have funds. If we had no excess except the 4%, I would be a little worried.
Right.
Because I am very pro savings and having money put away, because I just know that things can go wrong in old buildings. Even if this was maybe $100,000 less, I'd still be comfortable with it. Last year was extraordinary.
Right.
I have to admit, this is about half of where we were last year. So I'm comfortable with this, maybe even $100,000 less, because then you have options to talk about. Because
Right.
you always want to have
I just want to be sure that our taxpayers understand that there's not a whole lot of money every single year that we're overtaxing them.
And it's also important to understand that we know that there are potentials, and each year we put specific numbers of potential special ed outside placements in the budget. And unless we have somebody move into the district, we don't spend that money. But in a situation which happens, and it's just 1 year it does and 1 year it doesn't, we need to have that money available so we're not eating into the unappropriated fund balance.
What's the number that's comfortable for you? Because those are definitely.
Depends on the size of the district as well. There could be a larger, I know that I keep track of what Arlington is doing because that's my district, and they have a couple of $1 million of excess fund balance, but they have a much larger budget. It's harder with the smaller district because one or two unanticipated placements
Right.
could swing us really in the other direction. So if you're keeping in mind that you could be spending $100,000 on a placement, you want to have two.
Right.
You want to have that too, because I always think the 4% is allowed, so my goal is to always have 4% unappropriated, because that's what you're allowed to do. And anything over, it's manageable.
Okay.
You know,
it's something I was reflecting, because I was thinking about that same concern. And I was reflecting on how, our annual budget is 23 million plus, right? And when you think about, if that was like, if you think about your household budget, right? It's like we've got 23 million plus to manage the school district with every year. And the fact that we were only $490,000 off
Right.
what we thought we would be doing is actually pretty good, right? I mean, in terms of like checks and balances, trial and error, unforeseen things, I mean, to me, it's like really sound budgeting. So I was thinking of it that way, like percentage-wise, like $490,000. I don't know what that percentage is of 23 million. Were you just doing the math?
Yeah, I was. It's actually a little more. It's about a little less than 1.5%.
So to me, that's pretty good to be off only that
Yeah,
much.
and
It sounds like a lot, but
it does sound like a lot, but the
Yeah.
target is to to spend between 94 and 96% of your budget. If you do spend less than that, then you probably could have drawn it back a little. But we're in that target
Yep.
because the 4 right off the bat is really the minimum of what you want to spend.
And I know we're thinking about raising more money to really take care of some of the really big issues that we've been talking about for the past year. But to me, having that much money in the reserve, in the repair reserve, is really important, because if something should happen to one of these big ticket items like the heating system this year, we need, that money needs to be on hand. So I think it seems like a lot, but given the kinds of things that we may have to encounter, it's not.
So, any other questions or thoughts? Okay, so you'll be voting on that a little later as to our recommendations and where the funds will go. Okay, and going right from one to the next, our focus group meeting on the potential bond referendum. I've had the opportunity of meeting with some community members and talking a little bit and hearing some thoughts from the community about the potential bond referendum. So I think that it's helping me understand some of the questions that are out there. And what we're planning on doing is we're planning on hosting a B&G meeting right as soon as we get back, in probably the first or second week that we're back, and get the Building and Grounds Committee together to kind of really dig into this is what we're going to do. And then we anticipate having our next focus group meeting for the potential bond referendum either the last week in September or the first week in October. And we'll bring the community and anybody that has an interest. We'll talk about what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and how we're going to present it to our community, and then start moving forward. So, right from the beginning, we're jumping into that, and there will be a lot of discussion. Again, if anybody has any interest in helping us with the thinking that's going into the potential bond referendum and what we're thinking of doing, what we're thinking of hopefully fixing over the next couple of years, please join us, and we'll make sure that for both the 1st September and the 2nd September meetings, we'll have the date available for people to know.
And Diana, as you start to think about what those, typically I know the Buildings and Grounds meetings have been, 3:30 after school. And I don't know if that's just the most convenient time for the people who are attending the Buildings and Grounds meetings, but I was thinking about how, this year specifically, it's going to be a pretty important meeting to get to.
Right.
I was thinking kind of selfishly, or like as a board member, and for people who are working during the day. So I was thinking in my head, I would love it if they, at least maybe they rotated to have like an evening mixed in, if it was like one was after school, if that happens to be what's convenient, but then maybe the next one was in the evening, or I don't know if that's confusing, but I was thinking, I would like to attend those meetings, or there might be other people who are working who would like to attend those meetings, and they can't really if they're at 3:30 after school.
Right, and we have one person in particular who is on the Building and Grounds Committee meeting that just is unable to get there because of the time that they're, and she will be very helpful in this discussion, so that's a good
Maybe
idea.
a rotation or something.
Yeah.
Would be helpful.
Good idea. Okay, we have a big thank you going out to the Blue Devil Boosters Club. They had an amazing fundraising effort this year, and as you know, that we are in the process of making renovations all over the district. I have to tell people that although we fully anticipated and we fully wanted to have everything that was approved in last year's small bond here and in place for the beginning of the year, we're not going to have the bleachers until the beginning of October. And we're not going to have the library shelves till the middle, I guess, of September. So there are things that we're going to be waiting on, but everything is in full swing. And we were not able to do everything that the community or the Booster Club or the district really wanted to do. There were some things beyond what we were going to ask our taxpayers to support in the bond, and the Booster Club took it upon themselves to go out and fundraise, and they anticipated, I think their goal was about $30,000 to pay for everything in addition to like both the big scoreboard and the little scoreboard. We're going to have sound systems for the field and the gym that are state-of-the-art sound systems, and the things that we didn't have, they were going to fundraise for, and they way surpassed their $30,000 target. So we appreciate that. We appreciate everybody who donated, everybody who bought a brick, and so we're going to be able to do more than we wanted to. And I'm happy to say it's one of the places that I really thought we needed to do something was in the girls' softball field and the baseball field. We didn't have a scoreboard. So you'd go down to the game and you'd have no idea what the score was. And so that's going to be included. And so I think that we're some of the places that we really, we've been able to get along well without it, but it's just going to be that much nicer to have it. So thank you to the Blue Devil Boosters Club. We're going to be accepting part of the donation of about $15,000 tonight for the 2 scoreboards. They are buying not only a big one that has a backlight on it, but they're buying a little one for the visitors' side too with some of the funding. So thank you. Also with the boosters and many other people in the district, our concession stand is 99% done. We actually have water, we have sewer hookup. The only thing that's necessary that we have to do is we have to put the fixtures in the bathrooms, and we have to finish the rail coming down from the upstairs of the concession stand, and then we're done. So thank you again that was a full community effort, and we would like to thank everybody for that. The Haldane school calendar. For those of you who have been keeping track of our school calendar, we sent a school calendar out that was approved by our calendar committee and was approved by the Board of Education. And then we had State Ed come out with new mandates in the calendar and for the number of hours that the school is in session per week, and the way in which you can run things like parent-teacher conferences. And so when the new mandates came out, we took the calendar, we revised it, we put the new mandates in, we got it ready to go. It went out to the community, the board approved it, and then about a month ago we got information that the Board of Regents was not going to change the mandates this year. They were going to wait till next year. So now we're looking at our 3rd version of the calendar. But so it doesn't become hugely confusing to the community. The only thing we're going to do, we've changed the dates that certain things will take place on. We're going to keep the dates on those days. What we are going to change is just simply when the dismissal times are. So if you have a version 2 and not a version 3, we just caution you to look at the time that that we will be dismissing the 3 schools, and there will be times for superintendent's conference days that they're different than when we have parent-teacher conferences. But we ask you to make sure that you have the 3rd version or the version that will be on our website.
Do the elementary, middle, and high schools include a copy of the school calendar in their packets? I don't remember ever getting one in a packet. I think this is a year where, A, we need a calendar in all the packets.
Well, the elementary packets have already been received.
Oh, well, so not that one.
They probably all are.
But maybe then they all have it. I guess it is pretty close. So then, so what would we do?
You can send it out the first week.
Yeah, you could put it in the, do they still do the folders in elementary
Yes, they
school?
do.
Still, and do the folders? And then I would say email, and then regularly, I think, Diana, you typically do a good job of sending out reminders to the community, to parents on those lists. I don't get them anymore. But when there's going to be a half day, and I think just this continual, I think throughout the year, we just don't want to assume that anybody, and I would actually,
So the calendar is staying the same, it's just the
the
dismissal times are different.
That's right.
Right.
And are they earlier or later?
It's going to be earlier. We will have to push that. When we would normally dismiss the high school, middle school at 10:30, that's now going to have to be, I think, at 11:43
Next year.
next year, when the new mandates go in, and then that will be the elementary school, which would normally dismiss at 11:30, will have to go to at least 12:30. So we have time to get the buses back. So
And next year meaning next school year, or it's going to change this school calendar?
it will change in the 18-19 school year.
So there's no real changes to this year's
Well,
calendar? That we've
between the first and the second, we actually had to change the dates because we would have things like parent-teacher conferences on a Thursday and a Friday, for example. And you're not going to have the required number of hours if it's on a Thursday or a Friday.
It was the number
So-
of hours in a week.
In a week.
I remember.
So we
yes,
had
now
to
it's coming
change
back to me.
those to like a Friday and a Monday. So we did make some changes on days, which we're keeping. Even though we don't have to have them on those days now, since we already made a change, we're going to keep them. So it's not as confusing as it could be. And the only thing we're going to change is we're going to have the dismissal times similar to the way that they have always been. Although in 18-19, the dismissal times will be later.
We want to make sure everybody has this, but I think actually the bigger issue is that it's going to come as a surprise. Like those December parent-teacher conferences have been 1 day and a half day forever. And I think just making sure that people, because most people didn't probably notice when we changed the calendar from one to the other, from the first to the second
But they will
version.
notice when they go to sign up for those, because those,
That's
there
true.
is that
Good point.
process of
Okay.
signing up.
Yeah.
So it will be
Okay.
different.
Yeah.
All right.
And, we apologize. We wish that they had just kept it as it was. There was a lot of negativity from the communities because they actually created these mandates after the calendars
Right.
were already adopted. And so I think that's why they backtracked, but then it's just going to cause confusion. So we'll keep reminding everybody.
I think what I noticed in the elementary school packet, the switch to going from a Monday through Friday for the specials to a 6-day schedule on specials for the elementary school. I think that will be a bigger
Oh, really?
adjustment for an elementary school parent. Instead of like, okay, Tuesday's library day,
Right.
look at your books. It's like, what day is it? And that's okay. That's something they need to start learning, right? Because that's how the other schools do it. But
Right.
I think that will be a bigger learning curve for the parents.
Well, I can tell you probably the most confusing part of that, having been an elementary principal that went from a 5 to a 6-day cycle, that what really confuses parents is when PE is going to be, so they have their gym.
Sneakers.
Yep, they have their gym, whatever they need. And so that's problematic. So, just looking at pulling something out. Okay, so any other thoughts or questions? Okay, I wanted to let you know that we are in the process of taking a look at our website, and the board has had a real interest in making the website as user-friendly as it possibly can be. And we did take a stab at it where we redeveloped our website a little over a year ago, but I don't think we're up to where the board would like us to be. So one of the things that we are doing is we are going to hire somebody, an outside consultant, that's going to come help us redevelop the website. And so we have looked at a number. We spent an afternoon just looking at different kind of consultants and what they were able to do, and looking at the different websites. And I will be sharing the information with you when we finalize who we're going with. But I can tell you that the company that we like best, if you take a look at Mamaroneck School District's website, that was one of our favorites, the way that it presented initially, and also the way that it presented, or user access was easy. It's also a number of private schools, but once we have the conversation with the board, we're going to be talking about modifying that, then we'll bring more information. But I did want to tell you that throughout this year, you're probably going to see, even though we do have a new website, it's even going to be a better and brighter website as we continue on. So that's something that we're going to be doing this year. Recently, the board adopted a new fundraising policy, and the fundraising policy is now in existence as far as our policies for this coming school year. And a letter went out to any of the outside organizations, as well as emails and conversations that have gone out to these organizations to let them know that we do have a new policy and to highlight what is in the policy. And so we're going to put it on the front page we'll have new policies, and I have to write myself a note about this. We're going to have a link to new policies, so people can take a look at what they are as they come into existence. And we will have a series of new requirements. So please take a look at that if you're thinking of running a fundraiser and you're looking for approval from either the principal of the school or the district. So is there anything that the board would like to say regarding that?
And I think we want the public to know that the motivation for this is that we are, as a board and a district, we're required by law to keep track of the money that's collected for and spent on student activities. And I hope it goes without saying that we all are enormously appreciative of all the parent and volunteer activities that happen on so many different levels and by so many different people. And we want those to continue, but as required by law, those fundraising efforts must fall under some kind of district oversight. It's required. And this is an effort to do that. And also, district activities should be overseen by the school district. And so that's it.
Also for equity, every
Absolutely.
team should have a chance to fundraise, and you don't have two groups doing
That's
a
right.
car wash at separate ends of the street, and
Which has happened.
Which has happened.
Right.
So,
no,
yeah.
Margaret brought that up a lot, and I think it is really important, right? When people go to the trouble to have a fundraiser, it's important that they are positioned for success, right? And if there's not communication between the volleyball team and the soccer team, and they both try to, have a bake sale or a car wash or whatever, or some kind of event on the same day, it actually really cuts into the success that those folks might have. And
everyone wants to support both teams.
yeah, absolutely. So, yes.
So we are going to have our new teacher induction program on Wednesday, August 30th. And as of today, we are fully staffed. And the last hire was Patty O'Rourke, again, as our part-time middle school special educator. So that happened in the midnight hour. We hadn't met our match, and so we reached out to Patty and twisted her arm, so she's back again. So we will be meeting with them and helping them understand, our goals and what we as a district believe in, and so that will occur on the 30th of August. We then have a superintendent's conference day on Friday, September the 1st, where our teachers come back and we all meet and prepare for the year. And we will welcome the students back on Tuesday the 5th, right after Labor Day. So we're excited to have them back. On Tuesday the 5th as well, we will have a Board of Education business meeting at 7 p.m. in the music room. And so we invite people to join us at that time. So
Are we going to do the building tour beforehand?
we will do the building tour beforehand. Yes, we will.
So 6, we're saying?
Yep, 6 o'clock.
Is there any communication from the public? The hordes of people attending to tonight's meeting? All right. Okay. So we're going to now move into the part of the agenda, the various consent agendas. May I have a motion for us to consider the consent agenda regarding the minutes of the meetings from July 5th and July 27th?
So moved.
I'll second.
So we have the minutes from those meetings. Does anybody have anything they want to say about them? Okay, to approve the minutes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I have a motion for us to consider the consent agenda financial?
Motion?
Second?
So this is a business meeting, but there's not the typical kinds of reports that we have to review just because it's summer. That will happen. We will see those the beginning of September.
Double whammy.
Double.
Double header.
The first in September.
Good, that's fine.
You'll have the
That-
June and July
Right.
at that time.
So awarding some of the contracts for different services that we have, various donations of equipment, the donation from the Blue Devil Booster Club that Diana mentioned a moment ago, some other contracts with various school districts. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Moving into the consent agenda personnel, may I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All right. So some various, lots of actually activity. You can tell the district's been very busy getting ready for the school year. Diana just said that we're fully staffed, and if you look at all the different pieces of people being hired and moving positions, that's certainly evident here.
Do you want to comment about number 1, Diane? Michael?
Number 1.
Mike Cordy.
Very short.
Yes. We would like to wish Mr. Michael Twardy well as he joins the Garrison School District. He's going to be serving as their Director of Building and Grounds and Transportation. And we will be recommending, after our discussion and executive session tonight, somebody that will be in as an interim person and for a 3-month period, which will allow us then to hire into the position.
And actually, Diana, I see a couple of these things. So one of the things that we put in place at the end of the academic year was a process for people who would be volunteering to go through the approval process,
Right.
Including fingerprinting. And so if I'm correct, I believe this is the first time that we're actually seeing those applications come in before the board for us to approve.
Correct.
Right. So generous folks wanting to volunteer their time to different sports. The 6 period assignments that I know we often end up coming back to throughout the year. Coaching assignments are here. Anybody else have anything they would like to say? All right. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have another opportunity for any communication from the public. Okay, so we're still good. I know we have to stop after an hour, but we still have another 20 minutes on this tape, I think.
We're good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, so we may not make it all the way through new business, but we'll give it a go. So moving into the new business part of our agenda.
Well, we've already talked about the fund balance. And I think at this point, it would be, you want to have the vote, the resolution?
Has Has the board agreed to the recommendations?
We informally have given it our nod.
Right, but I think we do need to. So because I did do a little review of Robert's Rules of Orders in preparation for this meeting, but because this is something we vote on, it actually needs a motion for us to bring it up to vote on. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
I don't have a resolution attached, actually.
It's in the, it's not an attachment, it's actually the recommended action is that the Board of Education authorizes, it's what's in the agenda item details. For number 2, approval of resolution fund balance.
But not
Yeah,
even
but
in.
it's not there.
It's not, I mean, I know that you guys have spoken about what the
Oh,
numbers
the
are,
information about
but
what the
it's not actually
number-
like in executive content or anything.
It's
No,
in the
because we
email.
didn't.
We didn't want to
know.
assume that that was
We didn't
where it
want
was
to
going to go.
assume.
No,
That's
the
what
numbers go
in
in
our
based on
email.
your discussion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So whatever, that's why I'm asking, what are you,
Oh, so
is
you
that
want
the
us-
idea that you want to go with
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
discussed earlier?
Okay.
And then I will make that recommendation, and then you can vote on it.
So I had actually pulled up
Those items.
that.
100.
So, actually, I can read through it. It's in the email that we got on the 15th. So just to remind everybody, it's $100,000 into the capital reserve, $250,000 into the repair reserve.
100,000 into
Yeah, sorry, $40,000 to pay down the debt in the cafeteria and $100,000 for the employee benefit reserve fund.
So going exactly from that email.
Yeah, unless anybody had, there've been years past where I think we've had pretty strong opinions about maybe not.
Right, I'm comfortable
I'm
with it
comfortable with this
as-
too.
As it's been recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so you ready for me to read the recommendation?
Yes, and so do I ask for a motion after you read the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the recommendation is that the Board of Education authorizes the use of excess fund balance for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2017 in the following manner: capital reserve, 100,000, repair reserve, 250,000, EBLAR, 100,000, and transfer to school lunch fund, 40,000.
So, may I have a motion?
Motion?
A second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we just make a note, though, since it's a pretty big resolution, to update the agenda in board docs? So this way, if anyone goes back in time
Okay,
to look
sure.
at,
I can do that.
that
yeah.
the actual resolution is
Yeah.
in there.
Without having to go like to the minute.
Well, this
Yeah.
way, if someone says,
Yeah.
well, when did this happen? And they go, oh, okay, there it is, and then they don't see the information.
Right.
So
Numbers, right.
let's
Right.
That's a good idea.
update it.
Thank you.
So again, Julia, for this next resolution?
Yes.
You're
So-
going to read it first, and then I ask for a motion, is that correct?
Just so we let the public know, what it will be is a
Okay.
resolution to confirm the tax rolls, authorize the tax levy, and approve the tax warrant for the 17-18 school year. And before we do that, would you talk a little bit about the tax levy increase, which is happily less than we projected it would be?
The tax levy increase is the same as what we had talked about. That is the amount that we're going to raise. We're at the max allowed with the tax cap. The tax rate increase, which we thought would be no higher than 2.25%. Once the final assessment rolls came in, the taxable assessed value rounded to the nearest penny, it's 1.59, or for the nearest percentage, sorry, it's 1.59% increase in the tax rate.
That's a big difference.
And that's for Phillipstown.
That's a really big difference.
So we always like to give the, no more than, and happily when it comes in less. And that's it, we're happy.
That's great.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, the recommendation is that the Board of Education approves the following resolution to confirm the tax rolls, authorize the tax levy, and approve the tax warrant for the 2017-2018 school year. You just sign it.
Does everybody? We're good? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right, so now, actually Diane and I, Okay, so now what we're going to do, I'm going to,
Now we have,
yeah.
we're going to approval of the district committees and charges for the 2017-18 school years. And we're going to be discussing what the committees are, and then I guess you're going to be talking about who would be taking what committee, or we could do that at the retreat.
I think
Usually we do that at the retreat.
We do that at the retreat. Right.
Okay, so this year, the committees that we will have for the 17-18 school year will be Building and Grounds, which we just spoke of, the Code of Conduct Committee, Health and Safety, the Technology Committee, and Wellness.
And just to be clear, these are Board of Education committees. There are many other committees that
Correct.
the school supports and that function and that do important work. These are just the 5, and then add in the Audit Committee, 6,
Right.
that the board oversees.
Right.
And there will be a board representation.
Right.
Yeah. And we already approved the audit committee at our last meeting because we had to get that up and running.
So the recommended action is that the Board of Education approves the district committees and charges as listed below for the 2017-2018 school year: Buildings and Grounds, Code of Conduct, Health and Safety, Technology, and Wellness.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So I actually haven't, I've only been at a million of these meetings, but I can't remember for these different items in new business, are these items that you typically introduce or that the president typically introduces? Because I know that I am a novice at this at best.
It's kind of a tag team.
It's a tag team, okay, all right, good. I wanted to make sure I wasn't shirking my responsibility to introduce these topics, okay.
Really good. Okay, you want to do the next one, or you want me to?
You know what I did, and you can do it however you want to, but I considered it my job to, announce the next item, and then I would turn it over to Diana and say, Diana, can you comment on this, or can you lead us through this? But that way it wasn't like, whose turn is it?
Okay,
The board president can kind of
That's-
lead through it and then just refer to Diana.
thanks. I won't be doing this too often, hopefully. All right, so now, the ever exciting school calendar is next. Everybody's, hold on to your seats.
Okay, so as we were going through the calendar, we also realized that we had a Board of Education meeting on Tuesday, November 21st, with Wednesday, the 22nd, being the first day of Thanksgiving vacation. And we realized that parents would probably not be able to come because they would be with their families and traveling to go to relatives for Thanksgiving. So we are suggesting that we modify the calendar and have the Board of Education meeting on Monday night instead of Tuesday. So Monday the 20th as opposed to Tuesday the 21st.
Yeah, so this is the thing we were checking about. May I have a motion?
Oh, shall I read the
yes,
resolution?
please read the resolution.
Okay, thanks. The recommendation is that the Board of Education amends the date for the November Board of Education workshop meeting from Tuesday, November 21, 2017 to Monday, November 20, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Now it's the exciting calendar topic. So I think were there other changes in the ones you discussed during your superintendent's report?
Just the times.
But I
for the
actually do
dismissals.
think what's nice in this is, I mean, not that like it's exciting, but it really lays out why there have been these changes. I think the agenda does really nicely the rationale that you were talking about.
Okay, so are you ready for the recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, the recommendation is that the Board of Education approves the amendments as noted on the attached Haldane Central School District calendar for 2017-2018.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next, the discussion of we kind of just had this conversation a second ago, but typically our very first business meeting of the year, we all meet a little early and have a tour of the grounds. And so,
Who's going to be leading that tour?
Yes.
A potential interim or
Yes.
yourself?
Both.
Both. Okay.
all right. So I don't think there's not really much. Just that's what we're going to do? And that works for everybody?
I mean, there's probably a good chance I won't be able to make it by 6, so.
Yeah, because it's just like
It's
your
the
first day of
yeah.
school.
And you're going to be busy.
Yeah.
I think what we can plan to do is just let you, we'll ask Laura to maybe open the meeting with a walkthrough.
I mean,
and
if there's
just-
anything, I'm around the week before, maybe the week before.
Would you prefer to do it before then?
No,
We have done it in the past. We've done it like
Well-
before a retreat.
well, that was, I think, when it was I came, because that was the
The field and
those buildings, that building thing, the issue with the model,
the modular
Oh, the
homes.
Yeah.
modulars.
yeah, with that thing, that, you wanted us to see that.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So there was if there's something glaring that you wanted us to see, maybe I can just come, just randomly, actually, not the week before, next week is good for me. But I'm just saying, not for the whole board, I don't want to make inconvenience the whole board.
Sure. So I'll
So
be
if there's
happy.
something like you
Yep.
wanted to, like, showcase specifically,
Yep.
I can stop by next week.
I think you should see the new elementary library, even though we don't have all our shelves in.
Okay.
We have the new benches, it's been painted, we have a
Okay.
different carpet in there, it looks very
Okay.
nice.
Are you around next week? Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll email you.
Okay.
Okay.
It's nice to see it, well, I guess it will have been the first day of school, it won't be before, but it's nice to see it right at the beginning of the school year because it's always clear how much work the facility staff have spent on the.
Well, I think everybody was a little worried to walk on the floor in the cafeteria because it was so shiny.
Before we walked in there tonight, I thought
It looked wet, just like the floor here, they look beautiful.
So, yeah.
So they've doing a lot of hard work.
Oh, no. Did we need to
Okay.
pause, or we?
No, 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. So discussion. The School Boards Association meeting on October 12th to 14th. So previously, I know I had said, and I actually reached out to people indicating that I wanted to go. So this is for the New York State School Board Association, has an annual convention. It seems to rotate between the western part of the state, the northeastern part of the state, and the city. And so this year it's in Lake Placid. Next year it'll be in New York City. But I really wanted to go. I mean, I feel like there's still, one of the reasons why I ran again was because I felt like I had learned enough to actually really be a better board member, and I still feel like there's more that I want to learn about. So yeah, I'm going. Jen's going, and I think we're both planned to attend. There's a pre-conference workshop on district community communication, which I think we all.
It's like an all-day communications workshop.
It's an all-day communications
that both
workshop.
Peggy and I are attending, so that should be really interesting, and hopefully we'll get a lot of good things to talk about as a group and brainstorm about. And I've been to the conference when it was in New York City a couple of years ago, and it's a huge conference, and there's a million different things going on, and some of it's really interesting and pertinent to what you're doing, and some of it's not. It's there's a lot to choose from. But I found it really interesting and really helpful, and I think when Peggy first told me she wanted to go, I was like, Lake Placid, who's going to go all the way up there? Are you crazy? And then I was like, well, actually, it's kind of a good idea. So Peggy and I are going to go up, and we'll create some sort of, we'll brainstorm about some sort of report to give to you guys and to the public, and see if there's anything we want to incorporate into our practices or not, or whatever.
Well, and there's a lot, it's a time also, there's so much going on in the state. So the new ESSA plan is about to go in, so the new federal education law, every student success act, no more NCLB, it's now ESSA. So learning more about that, we've got the state just adopted new science standards, and so I think the state's still deciding, learning more about deciding how to actually roll those out. So I think there's a lot to learn. And the district is at least up for an award, a NSBA award, and we'll know sometime in September whether or not.
I'll be joining you.
Diana will be joining us. Okay, so we're going to pause for a quick moment to change for a technology break. Oh, I have
4 minutes, girl. Speed things
Okay,
up.
speed
We're
things
good.
up, sorry. Okay, so I put my, okay. And so the next issue is having a Westchester Putnam School Board Association legislative liaison. This is a discussion for us to have.
So in the past, we've kind of nominated somebody, and that person basically just receives their emails. We don't get too active here. I mean, I think we could get active if we wanted to, and that person could attend the school board meetings there and their legislative meetings and be a real representative for Haldane. That has yet to be something that our board is all that interested in. It's been just a board member who's kind of been the liaison, and then I think it was last year, maybe the year before, we asked the district clerk to be our liaison. And I think, Julia, you kind of just assumed that role where you're the one who sends us, or was it you or Diana? Like, I felt like it wasn't a board member anymore.
I don't think I was the liaison, but they do send me the emails too, and they ask me to share them with you.
Yeah, so I think it was like between the two of you, we would get everything we needed from them. So I think we didn't really adopt a liaison last year, if I'm remembering correctly.
I don't remember having a
I think we
liaison.
just passed it off to Diana and Julia. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
And so, actually, so Diana, talking about our next, what will happen at our workshop meeting in September.
We will welcome our new staff. We will have recognitions of the officers of the Haldane School Foundation, the Haldane PTA, the Arts Boosters, and the Blue Devils Boosters. And we will congratulate all our newly tenured teachers. So that will be part of our agenda on the 19th of September. So you're welcome to attend.
Any communication from the public? Oh, we can finish up. All right. So may I have a motion for, let's see, to convene into executive session for the board to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. In addition to the employment history of a particular individual, no action will be taken during this executive session, and after executive session, we will not come back into public session.
Motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right.